Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And yes, the gangster state South Africa keeps on proving my point time and again. And, there is a huge moral gap between certain elements in the community in South Africa and others who believe in crime, extortion, murder, rape, whatever. It is a huge divide. The divide in South Africa is not by race, it's by the moral compass. And while most white people in South Africa have a very good moral compass, they have very Christian beliefs, unfortunately, a growing number, especially amongst the younger Bantu and Nguni people, have absolutely no moral compass at all. And that's because of the ANC government and people like the EFF and the BLF who are just taking them into a very, very dark place. Now, what's happened in the last few days is 2 execution-style murders. Key people involved in actually outing the ANC cadre. Of course, they've put hitmen out, haven't they? One involves a fellow investigating rhino poaching, and the other one involves an advocate who was giving evidence about Bosasa. And I don't have to tell you what Bosasa is all about. Let me add some meat to the bone. This is a guy who was actually investigating rhino poaching. And of course we have Simon Root, who we have here on the live stream, who's got a security company that actually provides protection for rhinos, individual rhinos, because they're being hunted by poaching gangs. And there is clear evidence that those poaching gangs are supported by members of the ANC political party, right up to the government level. It is absolutely ridiculous. Let me tell you about the poaching issue first. Lieutenant Colonel Leroy Brewer was cruising into work along the R37 Lydenburg Road at 6:30 a.m. last Tuesday morning, when he was ambushed by gunmen with automatic weapons. The career cop with a stern moustache died at the wheel. 3 tight bullet holes visible on the driver's closed window, evidence that those who hunted him down did so deliberately. This was an assassination. Why were they going after him? Well, let's hear. Lieutenant Colonel Brewer was one of the best of the guys. Good guys. Not just guys, the good guys. He brought down rhino poaching syndicates in Mpumalanga and investigated cash and transit gangs. He was the investigating officer in the case against rhino poaching kingpins Petros Mr. Big Mabuza. Sounds like Didi Mabuza, doesn't it? Probably his brother. And Big Joe Joseph Nyalunga, an ex-cop turned organized crime figure. In 2016, he was awarded the best organized crime investigator in the Hawks in the country. Brewer had testified in court in White River that both he and the prosecutor in the case feared for their lives on a daily basis. Yeah, he had stirred the hornet's nest, the ANC gangsters. That's what he had done. It is almost impossible to measure the cost and loss of an individual like Lieutenant Colonel Brewer in the fight against crime. Just hours after losing his friend and colleague, Colonel Johan Jooster, the National Section Commander of Wildlife Trafficking of the Hawks, attempted to explain to me. He tackled his work with all the skills he obtained over the years, giving back to nature and people to see justice done, so much so that he was falsely arrested for doing his job. He was awarded the Hawks Investigator of the Year, which followed with the Hawks Project Team of the Year, and a Mpumalanga Provincial Commissioner Prestige Award. A beloved friend and colleague, it was quite interesting when I first met him. A ball of energy and nature lover of note. I gave him the nickname Captain Sardine. He was a captain at the time and showcased his passion in nature and in his work. He was a true asset that you seldom came across in our line of work. You will find Sardine at the Mpumalanga show and other school exhibitions, loving to talk to the school kids and the public about nature. He was a storyteller. He was a perfect expert in combating wildlife trafficking with his special skills and knowledge. He had superior knowledge to assist with confession, pointing out of crime scenes, and the investigation of complex organized crime matters. It is a big gap that will take a long time to fill with his loss. It is a very big loss in combating wildlife trafficking, and for that matter, organized crime in South Africa. The experience cannot be valued more than what he has given. Senior State Prosecutor ANC Venter, who worked with Brewer on poaching cases, said he was doing his job too well for the liking of criminals. He said, "I am shell-shocked and extremely sad. Nobody deserves to die like this, especially no law enforcement officer who is only doing his job apparently too well for the liking of criminals. I knew Leroy for about 9 years, and we worked together on quite a number of cases. He was so in love with nature, and that is why rhino cases were very close to his heart. He was always willing to assist and was a hard worker whose dockets were notoriously neat and very well prepared. What an unnecessary and heartless act of cowardice to take him out like this." Brewer's death leaves a vacuum of knowledge, institutional memory, skill, capacity, and commitment that will be devastating to the war on organized crime at a time when competency at the Hawks is a major focus, and of course to people who are trying to protect what remains of the rhino population in South Africa. The unit is desperate to rebuild its capacity, which has been at 50% for some time. National Commissioner Kele Sitoli described his death as a huge loss. On a personal note, Brewer was due to be married in August this year. Isn't that shocking? This poor guy, doing his job, engaged, getting married in August this year, and someone goes and shoots him because he was going to take them down. It's crazy. Devastating. The murder of a police officer in South Africa is not a unique occurrence. In 2019, 27 South African police service members were killed in the line of duty. Well, that's actually quite a small number when you compare it to the farmers, the white farmers. In fact, it's a very small number. Interesting. Not too long now, Detective Warrant Officer Delene Grobler-Koenen posted an image on her Facebook page of a South African police service badge and the words, "Every cop who puts this on in the morning knows there's a chance they might not be coming back at night." Earlier this month, the hero cop, who had been responsible for putting sex offenders and abusers behind bars, was shot dead in a battle with CIT gangsters. Her colleague, Sergeant Wynand Herbst, was killed in the same shootout. Grobler-Koenen knew the dangers of the job, but it doesn't make her death any easier to bear. She was enormously capable and passionately committed to her work. There is something terribly chilling about a senior Hawks investigator who brought down organized crime kingpins being taken out in a targeted assassination such as this. There is no doubt that Brewer's killing was a deliberate hit by professionals. Someone paid them. Someone paid them. Yeah, guess who? the ANC. I would put money on that. The ANC were responsible for the death of this fellow. According to Julian Rademeyer, Director of East and Southern Africa for the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, Brewer's murder is significant. He said, "This is an appalling tragedy when criminals feel so invincible that they think of assassinating a top organized crime investigator. There has been a seismic shift in society." Exactly. That's why it calls South Africa the gangster state. And guess what? Those who've been involved in the corruption over those years, where literally trillions of rand have gone into people's back pockets, they're now trying to get amnesty in South Africa. Can you believe it? This is just absolutely beyond the pale. But anyway, let's continue. It is one thing for criminals to target one another, but when they start going after the state, there are much bigger implications. Just look at Colombia, Mexico, Mozambique. The state has to find these killers. He said, "This is also a failure of the state to protect their own." Colonel Brewer had previously testified in a bail application for several alleged rhino poaching syndicate ringleaders that both he and the prosecutor had been threatened, said Rademeyer. The number of hits that have been occurring in South Africa are also alarming. Now, let's remember that the vice president in South Africa, Didi Mabuza, had hit gangs just a few years ago. He's trying to clean up his act and trying to walk away as if he did nothing. But he was involved with hiring hit gangs to take out ANC political opponents. That's the reality of South Africa. And he is the deputy president. If for some reason Ramaphosa died, he would be president in South Africa. This is how disgusting things are in that country. Let's continue. The number of hits that have been occurring in South Africa are also alarming. More often than not, they go unsolved as the shooters are professional, slick, and stealthy. These are prevalent in the taxi industry, Cape gang warfare, and organized crime, but also occasionally in personal disputes such as when husbands or wives hire hitmen to target their spouses. The number of assassinations in South Africa in recent years is staggering. Our assassination witness program has documented closer to 1,700 people being taken out by assassination in the last 20 years. Think about it. That's a huge number. Last year, our preliminary figures showed that there were at least 150 assassinations in South Africa, and that number is likely to increase as we verify our data, says Rademeyer. An examination of the last week alone tells the story. On Tuesday last week, a seasoned IPID investigator who had led the probe into former acting National Police Commissioner Komotso Falani was shot dead in an apparent robbery on his small holding. Mandlakisi Malungo has received death threats during the investigation, and forensic consultant Paul O'Sullivan believes the robbery was a smokescreen. On Friday afternoon, security business owner Shayob Dowji was shot dead on the M1 highway near the Corlett Drive. He had been followed from the nearby mosque in Houghton. Gunmen opened fire through the window of his black BMW. On Saturday, a female business owner was shot in her car in Bruma. She had dollars on her, which she was apparently exchanging. Sources say it was a targeted assassination. On Sunday, a warrant officer detective in the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit in Sibasa, Limpopo, was hacked to death after trying to arrest a suspected rapist. Within a couple of hours of Lieutenant Colonel Brewer's murder, a traffic cop in Cape Town was killed after trying to arrest a taxi driver. The assassination of Lieutenant Colonel Brewer, or Captain Sardane, as his colleagues endearingly refer to him, crosses a line in South Africa. It should shock us all, but it cannot be in vain. Advocate Venter, the prosecutor on the front line, is adamant that the fight will continue. Leroy is gone, but his investigations and case are very much alive and will proceed to honor his legacy. This is a reality of South Africa. There are so many assassinations happening in that country. It really makes Zimbabwe and other countries like that look like playgrounds, safe playgrounds in comparison. South Africa is a complete infested bed of corruption, crime, murder, rape, you name it. It is just disgusting what is going on in that country. And I just hope that in 2020 the adults in the room will take back what belongs to them. Now, let's look at another example of an assassination claimed to be a suicide. What a load of BS. A Pretoria attorney died a day after he gave explosive evidence before a secret insolvency inquiry probing the affairs of corruption-accused company Bosasa. Dani Potgieter, who advised the Bosasa board on steps it took to place a group of companies under voluntary liquidation in February 2019, is understood to have died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on Thursday. Self-inflicted. What a load of crap. In the past 2 years, evidence before the Zondo Commission inquiry into state capture has revealed large-scale fraud and corruption surrounding Bosasa. The company allegedly paid bribes to various government officials and politicians in exchange for securing government contracts worth 12 billion rand since 2004. Potgieter gave evidence before the inquiry, which has been chaired by retired Judge Mayor Joffe on Wednesday. The nature of the evidence is not known, as the inquiry is not open to the public, but one person with intimate knowledge of the evidence presented said it was damning of the conduct of the Bosasa board, as well as the late Bosasa CEO Gavin Watson and his family. Potgieter was asked to explain large sums of money paid to him by Bosasa during the time period spanning the company's decision to go under voluntary liquidation. He handed over several key documents to the inquiry, as well as explained his role and the truth behind the company's decision to go under voluntary liquidation. He was asked to return on Thursday to provide further documents, but his legal representative informed Joffe on Thursday afternoon that Potgieter had died. Potgieter had been assassinated. Marius Viljoen, Potgieter's attorney, said it was upsetting that the media appeared to have an intricate knowledge of persons subpoenaed to appear before the inquiry and as to their testimony. This, in all probability, will cause witnesses not to disclose vital information that could assist in unraveling the mysteries behind the Bosasa Group. Viljoen continued by saying, "In any event, it is a very sad day as we lost a very experienced and respected member of our legal profession. Our hearts and prayers go out to his family, friends and colleagues in this distressing and challenging time." Potgieter's evidence could prove pivotal in understanding what truly happened during the final days of Bosasa, which faced bank account closures, decided to voluntarily wind up the business. The Bosasa board previously challenged its own decision to place the companies under liquidation, which Potgieter advised them to do. in court and was initially successful. Former BASASA chair Joe Gumede argued in court papers that they had been ill-advised by Potgieter. The Supreme Court of Appeal overturned the High Court order setting aside the board resolution for liquidation in November 2019, effectively placing the companies under liquidation once more. Since then, the liquidators approached the court for an order granting the establishment of an insolvency inquiry, while Jared Watson, Gavin's nephew, filed an application to have some of the BASASA companies placed under business rescue instead. Jared, Roth and Lindsay Watson were subpoenaed to appear before the inquiry to answer questions over the financial affairs of the BASASA Group. The business rescue application, as well as an application for an interdict, Jared sought to halt a massive auction of BASASA's assets in December, was set to be heard earlier this month in the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg. The matter was postponed to the 4th and 5th of May. Ultimately, this application has persisted with a clear ulterior motive to neutralize the appointment of truly independent liquidators to the subject companies under circumstances where the BASASA protagonists had a clearly intended plan in mind when they placed the said companies in liquidation on day one. An affidavit by one of the liquidators, Cloete Murray, reads, Murray was appointed by the Master of the Court at the behest of the South African Revenue Service, or SARS, who has emerged as the group's single largest creditor. Immediately after being appointed, Murray took no prisoners, taking charge of the BASASA head office in Krugersdorp and effectively locking the directors and the Watson family out. SARS filed papers opposing the application for business rescue, saying it was clear BASASA continuously failed to meet its obligations under tax law. The tax service said the group of companies owed more than 849 million rand in taxes on initial assessments, a figure that is likely to increase. Now, too many coincidences, guys. This is not random murders. This is assassinations. And it's happening across the board. ANC against ANC. It is, in fact, the author, Fiona Timms, in one of her articles that I've actually got on the Loving Life channel, she refers to how the Zulu people, in particular, their whole lifestyle is based on living in fear. Isn't that tragic? Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.